Okay, welcome to today's webinar on Maptitude for municipal government. Today we're going to be focusing on public safety. So we can enter into the data in two different directions. One is we can, from the Maptitude desktop here, we can do a new map of the United States, zoom into our city of choice, or we can bring the data in directly and then it'll automatically zoom into the city based upon the data that we have. So today we'll just bring in the data directly. So we'll bring in the map, my data spreadsheet table, and we will find that data here on my directory here, and it's under my Maptitude blog. Let's see, public safety, and we're going to bring in crime data for the city of Seattle, and it's for a whole year for robberies, burglaries, and motor vehicle theft. We'll bring that data in, and let's see here. And we have the data either by address or latitude, longitude, so we're bringing it by lat long. And click on next. And we have about 16,000 records. We can either import the data directly or we can link it. If you have a spreadsheet that's going to be kind of updated very actively, then you may want to link the data so that way the data displayed in the Maptitude desktop is refreshed every time you update the spreadsheet. But for this, this data here is static. So import the data, click on next, bring in the records. We'll just leave it as is, no theme, and no theme there. We'll click on finish, and we have 16,000 records. So we'll do a few things today. One, we'll learn how to do some selection sets. We'll learn how to tag the data to some block group level activities, and then we'll also learn how to keep geography constant, which is really important when we're making sure our data is clean and clear. So for this here, we now have Seattle, and I'm going to make the size a little bit smaller. And so we really are interested here is, while we have robbery, burglary, and motor vehicle theft data, we really are interested in just in robbery data, and we're also interested in just in robbery data for the last 3 months of 2022. So we're going to do that a couple ways here. First is we're going to create 2 selection sets, and then we're going to do a heat map based upon those selection sets. So first, I want to go to my crime data layer. I want to create a selection set, and this will be selection set number 1 in green. And we're going to do a function, and that function is going to be the field list here based upon a crime offense parent group. And that's going to be for robberies only. So values are going to be robbery. So that's our first selection set, was just by that criteria. And that does show up as green. And then we're going to create another selection set here. So I'm going to create selection set number 2. And that's going to show up as, we'll make that color palette. We'll make that purple. And we'll go back into our functions here, select by condition. And we're going to do a operator list. Actually, we're going to go in here and we're going to create, say a field's going to be date. And our operation is going to be between. And for the first between, we're going to do a value of the date. So we're going to do we'll use that one for starters, and we're going to change that to 9.1. And then for our second value here, we'll put that back in there, and we'll change that to 12.31. This is going to be, we're going to select all the ones that have a date between September 1st and December 31st. So that's going to be a new selection set number 2. And click on OK. So these are all the crimes, whether it's burglary, robbery, or motor vehicle theft, that are going to be between these 3 months. But now we're really interested only in the 3 months that are just robberies. So we're going to do a combined selection set here. So we're going to go to selection, combined selection here. And we want something, it's in both. So we're going to do a selection set here, selection set 1, which is your robbery, selection set 2, which is the dates. And then we're going to create a new selection set, which is combining these 2, that combines both 1 and 2. Click on OK. And those show up here as yellow on the map. So now that's actually now can be considered selection set number 3, or combining of 1 and 2. So now what we want to do is go ahead to our heat map here, create a density grid, and we're going to have a 0.5 mile and 0.202 density, and that's going to be on the new selection set. And this is actually going to show where robberies for the last 3 months of 2022. I'm going to turn our crime data layer off as a heat map here. So as you can tell, kind of the downtown Seattle area tends to be the kind of the hot spot here for robberies during the last 3 months of 2022. But we have some other nodes here in North Seattle, South Seattle, and the west side here where there are kind of some hot spots of data. So this is one way of taking that crime data as a point and doing some selection sets and turning that into a theme here. The next thing we want to do here is actually turn the heat layer off and turn our crime data back on. And I want to go in into our crime data and let's see here. And I want to go to our selections, settings. And I still want the robberies, but I really don't want in dates at this moment here. So I'm going to drop that set. And the combined set, I'm going to drop that as well. So we still have our robberies. We'll say close. And what I want to do now is zoom into kind of the core area of Seattle here. Keep looking in here. And the next thing I want to do is I want to bring in some census block data to kind of start comparing our crime activities to some demographics. So the next thing I want to do here is I want to add a layer, and I want to add that layer from our census Maptitude data sets, and this will be Block Group 2022. I'll bring that on in here, and that'll show up as purple. And what I want to do is actually do a selection set here and actually export just the block groups of interest to us to do the detailed analysis here. So I'm going to do a selection set here, create a new selection set with the block group being the active layer. And our selection set here we can choose by rectangle, circle, shape, which is more freeform, or by function. We're going to do a freeform shape. And we're going to go up here. Actually, take that back. We actually don't want we don't want that area. We want to actually go up through here, through Interbay, and then down through here, up through here, across over to Lake Union, down to I-90, back across, and back up through here. So we're only interested in the areas here as you see are highlighted. Let's move our map up a little bit to see our areas and so forth. So we will then take that area there and we will do the selection set there, and we'll file, export, geography, compact file is fine, call that block group number 1, and we'll add that layer to the map. We'll include our built-in data, which is all our census data. Click on OK, and we'll put that in our project folder here. So, and public safety, and we'll save it there. Okay, so we'll turn this layer here off, which is our block group layer. We want to keep that layer with the selection set because we need that to use that at a later date. And we use our block group layer here, and we'll turn our crime layer off for now. So you can see the block layer clearly here, which is the purple outline. So now we want to go into our block group 1 layer, and we want to modify the table. And we'll add 2 fields. We'll add a field here for robberies. Integer is fine, format's fine. And while we're at it here, we're going to be looking at household median income, but we want that to show up as dollar signs. So we'll click on that there. Okay. Yes. And so we're going to do a couple themes here. First, we're going to go to our data view here, new data view, and scroll all the way to the right. And we are going to, for robberies, take all that crime data we just had on the other layer, and we're going to aggregate that to this layer here. So we're going to take a robbery, fill, and we're going to aggregate that layer, and we're going to take that from the crime layer. All features would mean burglaries, robberies, and motor vehicle theft. We just want the robberies, which is selection set number 1, and we just want the count. So we just want to know how many robberies are total in those block groups. That's fine. Click OK and click OK here. The table then updates with the number of robberies per block group, and we'll hit X to exit out of the table. And next we'll go through here and do some thematic mapping here on this block group stuff. So first we'll go through and we'll do a color theme. And I want to look at household median income, and I want to do that in 6 groups. And just click on styles, and let's go through here and do a color theme from red to purple, and we'll make that 35%. And we'll copy the pattern, click OK, and we'll go back, and I want to make sure zeros are missing values and don't need the counts so much. We're good there. And next we want to go in, and so that's our core income area. So you see areas that are in red are lower income, areas that are in purple are higher income according to the legend here. We have areas that are actually others, so actually I'll go back into our theme here, and for others, I'll make that a style, and I'm going to make that actually no fill, so none. Click OK. And next I want to go in and do a size theme wizard for robberies. So we're going to go all the way down here to robberies, click on that, do a wizard and perceptual scaling. So it means it's the size of the circle or it's kind of scaled that's visual to the human eye. Click OK. And let's go do some modifications. Instead of purple, I want to do black. We'll do that, and opacity 75% is fine. I prevent overlapping labels and settings here. I want the lowest value to be a 1. So anything with a 0 doesn't even get included here, and make that a 3. And highest value is a 40. Click OK. So these are now showing the census block groups with crime with the circles. So obviously, the larger the circle, the higher the crime rate. And you can see down here in South Seattle, areas with lower incomes, higher crime rates. Here in the Broadmoor neighborhood, we got some higher incomes, lower crime rates. So just one way of taking that rich data set and displaying that as a thematic map. And this could be useful if you're with the police department and you're trying to have a public meeting or something, and you want to display that data to the community. This is one way of looking at that data. However, not all these census block groups are the same size geographically, and that's a challenge for us. So there is a way to handle that whole situation, and that's called ceteris paribus, which is really keeping geography equal, and we'll do that right now. So next what we'll do is we'll turn this layer off, and what we'll do is we'll create a grid. So we'll go to map, it's actually tools, editing, create a new grid layer, and we'll call this grid for now. We'll have a couple options here. You can cover the window with a set number of cells, cells of a certain size, or you can do the origin and spacing of cells. We're going to do cells of a certain size. And for this map here, you know, a quarter mile might be pretty good here, considering the size of the geography here. So we'll put this in here for the cell size, 0.25. 0.25, and we'll get a grid here, and we'll change the color on that grid to we'll make it black, and we'll make it actually we'll make it purple. Make it stand out. OK, and click OK there. So that's our grid. But we don't want the grid for the whole area here. We actually just want the grid for the area where our block group is, that it's highlighted in green here. So we really would just want that green area transferred over to a grid. So we're going to do a couple things here. So we're on our grid layer. We're going to create a selection set for that. So it'll be a new selection set. And we're going to go to our grid layer. Then we're going to go to selection by location. So we're going to select into our grid layer here only the stuff that's in the census block group layer that's in green. So we're going to go back to census block group here. 1. All features, we want the selection set. touching or is contained within the squares. That's what we want. And we'll put that stuff into selection set number 1, which you just created, and we'll create a new selection set here. So it's just done that. And it says 324 features are in that selection set. So next, we're going to create another grid layer with just that selection area. However, there's a little trick to that here. So next, we're back in our grid. We have our selection with set 1 with 324 squares selected. So we're going to go to File, Export that geography. So export geography. We don't want a grid file here. This is the mistake many people make. We actually want to do a compact or standard geographic file. And we'll call this grid number 2. And we'll add this layer to the map. Built-in data is fine. There's not a whole lot in there because we're going to overlay some data here in a second. We don't want centroid points for this one, but you could do that if you're just doing large data sets, and that does make the data file smaller. We'll click on OK. We'll add that to the same folder, call that grid number 2. That's fine. OK, so if we turn off grid, the first grid, this is our new grid layer. So this is actually the new grid of squares, just actually aggregated to the areas that are touched or within the census block group that was a selection set. So next, what we want to do is I can turn off the block group layer as well. So that's nice and clean looking. Next, what we're going to do is to that grid layer here, grid number 2, we're going to actually add a couple data sets to it. So we're going to do a data view, table, modify, add 2 fields. One is for median income, so income, and the other one is going to be robberies. And integer is fine. Format for the income, let's do it in dollars. Click OK, yes. And next, we're going to go in and overlay that data. So we're going to go back to data view, new table, and we're going to overlay the, either do an overlay or you can go in here and aggregate the data. So we're going to aggregate the fill. That income data is going to be based upon aggregated. It's going to be based upon our block group layer. So we use block group number 1, which is fine. And we're just going to be the average of the median household income layer. So we'll average it depending on the square. And click on OK. And click OK. It's going to go through each of those squares and aggregate the income. So here we go here. Then we're going to go to robbery, and we're just going to count the number of robberies. So we're going to go to fill, aggregate, and this one here, we're going to go to our crime layer is what we're using. We want our selection set because we just want robberies, and that was what we selected earlier on today. And we're going to go to just count. You can have your total number of, if you have multiple locations, and there's a certain value to each one. Let's say you had the total amount of, for each robbery you had the amount that was robbed. Then you can do a total, you can do the average, standard deviation, a low value, a high value, or a count. And we'll do that. Click OK. Click OK. It's going to do the count. And as long as we're in here, let's go back to table, modify, and make sure we got the dollar signs. Click OK. Yes, now we're in dollar signs. We're good there. We'll shrink this window and make this one bigger. And now we'll go, now with the grid layer here, we will go through here and we'll do a thematic map, and we'll base that upon income. And we'll do the optimal breaks. We'll do 6 again. And click on styles. And actually, let's go back and get rid of zeros is missing. Don't include counts. Okay, now we have our range here. We'll swap it. Style at 35%. So this will be the same thematic map as we had earlier, same color range. So now this is a map showing the same area using a grid for showing income. And now let's go in here and for our color or size theme, do robberies, do perpetual scaling, and do those in black. And click OK. And let's go back into our size and go back and I think we added a minimum of 2 for a 4, and if it's 6 gets a 40 perpetual. Click OK. And this shows you here, and actually let's just size this a little bit differently. Make that a 35. So it's a little bit more easy to see, and we will go in and actually style and prevent overlapping labels. And this shows you here, again, the number of robberies per grid cell, but this is also keeping geography equal, constant. So if we go turn this layer off and go back to our block group 1, and we'll just double check, make sure I have my go to block group 1 and size. I think we had that was a 2, 4 for simplicity, making sure we're using the same. So this shows you similar stuff where the size is a little bit, the block group size is a little bit differently, showing the clustering of crime more or less in the downtown core. However, the geography is not kept constant, whereas if you turn the grid layer on here, that shows, and we turn the block group off, this actually shows the geography a little bit more clear into the grid layer here. So this is just another way of displaying that data visually with the crime data. So again, if we wanted to, let's go back to our block group layer here and put that as my current layer, block group. And let's go through here and change the selection settings. And actually, let's go do something different here. Let's actually go to my crime layer here and turn that back on. And crime layer, and that selection set. Now let's actually go in and create a new selection set here. Selection set number 2. And let's make that basically field list is parent group. Instead, let's do motor vehicle theft. And click on that, click on yes, okay. So that's going to be selection set number 2. And turn the crime layer off. Let's go back to grid number 2 and let's go in and into the data view table, modify, and let's add another layer or another field rather, add field. MVT, which is motor vehicle theft, which is fine. Yes, and let's go here to. Oh. So thank you for our webinar today, and if you hopefully you find this worthwhile. Thank you very much.